Today we'll discuss redox reactions. Redox is the term that corresponds to two types of reactions. One is reduction and the other oxidation. And when both of these reactions taking place together, such reactions are called as redox reactions. Now let's talk about what is actually reduction and oxidation. We can define oxidation as the term indicates it is gain of oxygen. Means if in any reaction there is an addition of oxygen taking place, that is called as oxidation. For example, carbon that reacts with oxygen, and in the presence of oxygen carbon dioxide is formed. This is oxidation reaction. Now let's talk about another definition of oxidation, that is loss of hydrogen is called as oxidation. For example, if we have HCl that is broken down into hydrogen and chlorine, in this reaction chlorine is losing hydrogen and it is forming chlorine gas. As a result, this reaction is called as oxidation because loss of hydrogen is taking place. Then we can also define oxidation in terms of loss of electrons. For example, there is sodium that loses an electron and forms sodium plus 1, and 1 electron is lost. This loss of electron is represented as or called as oxidation. Now there are three different conditions we have discussed for oxygen, and the last one is increase in oxidation state. We'll talk about oxidation state. It's a complete topic in next stages. We'll refer to it, but for at the moment we just need to know that if the oxidation state is increasing, it is called as oxidation. For example, as the above equation, sodium has oxidation state 0 on the reactant side, whereas if we look at the product side, its oxidation state is +1. So 0 has increased to +1, and as the number is increasing, it is called as oxidation. Now let's talk about, on the other hand, reduction. On the same parameters, it is opposite to oxidation. Reduction is loss of oxygen. If in a reaction there is loss of oxygen taking place, it is called as reduction. Let's talk about its example. For example, magnesium oxide is there. It is broken down into magnesium and oxygen, and as this is losing oxygen and forming magnesium solid, it is called as reduction. This is important reaction. Its application is in extraction of metals, and we'll talk about its applications later on in different topics, upcoming topics. Okay. On the other hand, if we talk about the second definition, that is gain of hydrogen takes place in reduction. It means if hydrogen atoms are gained in a reaction, this responds to This is reduction. For example, if we have opposite, we write opposite to that. Hydrogen is added to chlorine, it forms hydrogen chloride, and this is called as reduction. If we see previously, it was oxidation when hydrogen was removed or there was loss of hydrogen taking place, it was oxidation. But if addition of hydrogen atoms are taking place, then it is reduction. Let's come to the third. It is actually gain of electrons in reduction. So if chloride ions are there, if this is chlorine is resulting in the formation of chloride ions. Chloride ions means chlorine is gaining one electron. It is reduction. So let's talk about the fourth point. That is the oxidation state is going to decrease here. As we talk, let me write the equation. Chlorine is 0 in oxidation state over here when it is in the form of gas, and when it gains one electron each and it forms chloride ions, two chloride ions are formed. This equation you can also refer over here. So this is the transition from 0 to -1 taking place in oxidation state, and as the oxidation state is decreasing, so we call it reduction. Let's talk about an example of redox reaction. We discussed separately gain of the oxidation taking place, reduction taking place. Let's get an example for a redox reaction where both of them, let me show you where both of the reactions are taking place together. For example, it is carbon reacting with copper oxide, forming carbon monoxide, and copper is separated. It is basically reduction of copper oxide to copper. Extraction of metals, it is an example from a reaction extraction of metals. Let's talk what is happening in this reaction. Carbon has changed to carbon monoxide and copper has changed to copper oxide to copper. Let's discuss what is actually happening. Carbon, when transiting from this stage to this stage, it is actually gain of oxygen that is taking place. And if gain of oxygen is taking place, then it is called as oxidation of carbon is actually happening. Now let's talk about what is happening with copper oxide. Copper 2 oxide is actually being reduced to copper because there is loss of oxygen taking place. We have to compare the left side with the right side to find out what is actually the change happening. So the change is actually it is copper oxide here, whereas it is copper here. So it is loss of oxygen taking place, that is reduction taking place, reduction of copper oxide to copper. This is a simple reaction to just to show you that how a redox reaction is actually taking place. That's good.